ladies and gents, Mr. Colm O'Brien.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Aidan. Thank you. Very good evening to you all. I was going to say lovely to see you, but I can't see you from here at all. Colm O'Brien's my name, and I am a dub. Laurence, that's the actual capital. I am a dub, and I moved to Limerick in 1998. And Aidan kindly invited me along here this evening and entrusted me to the Smarter Eggs organisation. So thank you for that opportunity, and delighted that you all came along this evening to have a listen. And then he threw the curveball, which was talk about challenging convention. I was thinking, how am I going to do that? So I've decided to tell you a little story, if I may. And I've decided, and the story is fundamentally called The Man on the Train. But we're going to get to that in a minute, if that's okay. By the way, if you're going to Dublin, I am a dub, and I usually teach a bit of Dublinese. The standard greeting in Dublin when you get there is, how's it going? And the standard response is, great. Right, so how's it going? Great. See. Anyway, so I want to tell you a story about the Man on the Train. But what I want to do to give it context is I want to tell you about our current business, and I want to tell you about the history that led to our current business. Current business is called Carambola Kidz. My day job, as I call it, is called Carambola Kidz. I'm going to tell you about that and where it's at the moment. I'm going to take you right back to how my career started, because it's the bridge between the two worlds, if you like, is where the Man on the Train comes in. So if you'll bear with me. And I hope to tie it all together in a nice little bundle, which it sticks to the theme of the evening, which is challenging convention. So I'll tell you about Carambola Kidz. Carambola Kidz is a school meals business, and it's 12 years old as we speak. We're based in Limerick, but we're a nationwide school meals business. And I'm going to use the cover of the book just to show you what we do. We produce little school lunches, little packed school lunches. Can you see that there? Little packed school lunches. That's what we do. And we produce thousands of those every day. As I'm standing here today, our business turns over €6.5 million a year, so it's not insignificant. We employ over 100 people. We are nationwide. In 12 years and almost 25 million lunches, we've never once missed a delivery. And the reason we never once missed a delivery is simply because we feed kids. We don't have the luxury of picking up the phone and saying, do you know what, we'll get there tomorrow, we had a puncture. If that makes sense. If we supplied maths books, we could do that. Feeding kids, we can't. So in 12 years, 25 million lunches, we've never missed a delivery. And that's because of the wonderful team that we've built together. So we supply 23,000 of those individual lunch bags every day. And if this was a classroom of Carambola Kidz, you'd all have your own lunch bag. Colm would have his, Aidan would have his, Ernest would have his, Karima would have hers, Colette would have hers. Okay, that's what we do. And they're all individually chosen, individually labelled, and that's the day job, okay? And prior to the day job, I was involved in the catering industry. I wanted to be a school teacher back in the day when I came out of school, mainly because of the long holidays and the short hours. And but the man upstairs, I always say, had a different plan, and I was thrust into the catering industry by complete accident. And I got a job in Cleary's, you know Cleary's department store? Got a job in Cleary's in the restaurant there back in 1980. And that led to a whole career. I was talking to Laurence earlier and I was saying, like, I got good at it. And when you get good at something, you tend to get on. And when you get on, you tend to just stick with what you know. So I ended up going from Cleary's to Bewleys. And you all know Bewleys. And I used to manage Bewleys in Grafton Street. Back in the early 90s, I was the general manager of Bewleys in Grafton Street. Big, busy place. I mean, seriously busy organisation. About 200 staff, about a management team of about 20, and I was a 28 young GM. Huge learning curve. And from there, I took on the role as Bewleys franchise manager. Does anybody remember the Bewleys in Cook Street in Cork here? Yeah. So that was one of my early appointments. I used to have to come down as brand policeman, if you like, and see what was going on in all the various Bewleys franchises around the country, which took me outside the pale. And for the first time, being a dub, where we think the universe revolves around Dublin, right? For the first time, it took me outside the pale, and I saw lifestyle outside of Dublin. Because Dublin is a bit of a rat race, let's call a spade, right? It's go, 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 and it's commute, work, commute, bed, commute, work. And I saw lifestyle outside Dublin, actually in Tralee. I was on a day trip to Tralee on behalf of Bewleys. And it led to a series of meetings which fundamentally led to myself and my wife 8 weeks later from that day moving to Limerick and taking on the Bewleys Cafe franchise there. So I jumped from being a corporate employee for many years, senior manager, into being in business for myself. We took on the Bewleys Cafe in Limerick, and it failed. This is where it gets interesting, right? So up sticks, told my wife we'd go down here for 5 years, this will be great, make a few bob, get out of Dodge. And within 5 years we were on our knees, right? And the reason it failed is interesting. We were doing a really good job. Is that fair to say? You know, I believe we all do a really good job and certainly do our very best. But circumstances beyond our control, what I call a perfect storm of events, came to pass that put us out of business. And there were a handful of things. Firstly, David mentioned the millennials earlier. Around the turn of the century, people's eating habits were changing. And Bewleys, known for its bacon, egg and sausage, big mugs of white coffee, real butter, none of that was fashionable anymore. People wanted wraps and paninis and lattes and cappuccinos, and Bewleys wasn't known for that stuff. So our business had been growing like this, and all of a sudden, around the turn of the century, began to take a nosedive. And that wasn't too bad, you know, we thought it was just cyclical. But then foot and mouth disease hit. Do you remember that? And you add foot and mouth disease into this, and all of a sudden, the people in the hinterland were told, don't go into town, and they didn't. And so the business dropped by about 20% overnight, so we were in trouble. And then what happened, particularly in Limerick beside Shannon Airport, is when 9/11 struck, all in that same time frame, the Americans never came back. So the Americans never came back, and so the hoped for increase that we'd get never happened. So all of this was really bad for us. But the final nail in our coffin was what I call in my book, the fecking Celtic tiger. And the fecking Celtic tiger, in conjunction with this and the flattening of our business on the downward trajectory, the fecking Celtic tiger drove the rent through the roof. And our rent in a coffee shop in Cruises Street in Limerick went to €1,000 a day. Yes, thank you for that. €1,000 a day, right? Selling cups of coffee and bacon, egg and sausage that nobody wanted anymore. So, marry all that together, and I realise I've made a mistake jumping out of the permanent pensionable, which by the way doesn't exist, but you know what I mean? I had the relative security of a paycheck. Convinced my wife to jump out and bet on me, it'll be grand, and of course it wasn't grand. Anyway, all of that, because the business was going out, because we were going out of business, we knew when the rent review hit in 2002, we knew this wasn't going to last. And that opened my eyes to looking for some new stuff. And this is where the journey goes to the train, right? So to try and rescue our business, I decided to hand Bewleys back their name. So I took Bewleys off the front of the cafe, and I created Cruises Coffee Company because we were on Cruises Street. That became the new brand. And then we took the Cruises Coffee, and by the way, that saved us about 50 grand because we didn't have 50 grand in royalties to pay, which bought us another 50 days rent. And that's all. And then we took the Cruises Coffee brand and we set up, do you know the kiosks on the Liffey Boardwalk there in Dublin? You know the little coffee kiosks along there? So myself and my brother and a friend decided to set those up. And we ran them for a little while. So they were up in Dublin. I was trying to rescue myself. I was trying to position myself to get out of what was going down the track. I knew the cafe had to fail. It was like Titanic had hit the iceberg. It was going to sink, no question. And I just wanted to see what we could rescue from it. So used to take the train. This is where the train comes in, right? Used to take the train regularly up and down to Dublin because I was living in Limerick and my business was now beginning to move towards Dublin. And I believed my business then would be a coffee shop business. Made sense with all my training. I believed we take the Cruises Coffee brand and just repeat, rinse and repeat, as somebody said earlier. So I was on the train one day and I met a man on the train. And as you do when you're on the train, I know, Colette, you're on the train today? Yes. Meet anybody? That you're willing to?
Yeah, not willing.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Anyway, I met him on the train, and as you do, you swap business cards, as is done, right? And on my business card back in the day, and it's still on my business card today because of what happened, I had this little strap line, and you can have one of these later if you wish. It says, "How can I help?" Little strap line. So my name, my phone number, email address. There was probably a website back in the day. It was a Cruises Coffee Company business card, and it says, "How can I help?" So your man says to me, "That's interesting." He says, "What does that mean?" I said, "What does what mean?" He says, "What does how can I help mean?" And I said, "Well, it's my offer to the universe. It's just me, I'm out there doing my thing, and if I can be of any assistance in any shape or form, give me a shout. If you're looking for a ladder, or you're looking for a window cleaner, I have no idea, or an electrician, and you think I can be of help, give me a call." And he said, "That's very interesting." Put the business card in his pocket, and I never heard from him again, right? However, 6 months later, his boss rang me. So your man, we were both based in Limerick, headed up to Dublin on the train. He got my card, hopped off. He went back to Limerick that evening, gave my card to his boss, and his boss rang me and said, but 6 months later, says, "Your man that you gave the card to has left our organisation." Gone, right? But he gave me your card and he says, "If you're ever interested in doing something in the food game, this guy was interesting. Give him a shout." So the boss rang me and says to me, are you interested in doing a pilot project for school lunches here in Moyross? And I'm thinking, am I what? Of course I am, right? Of course I was cool on the phone. I said, do you know what? Yeah, we might look at something like that. Your man came in, we had a meeting, we tendered, we won the contract, and we supplied 27 lunches within a few weeks of that to our first school, and today 23,000. Was that a good meeting? You can chalk it down. That was a great meeting. That's the saying in Limerick, you can chalk it down. That was a great meeting. And here's the reason I'm telling you that story, right? First of all, I believe there's one of those for everybody in the audience, right? There's a man on the train moment waiting for everybody, in my opinion, and more for me, by the way. It's not just one. They're out there, but two criteria have to exist for your man on the train moment to exist, to manifest. And the first one is you need to be out there, and this is where we get into challenging convention. First thing is you need to be out there. He was never going to knock on the window and say, sorry to disturb Coronation Street, have this great idea for you. Isn't that true? Couldn't possibly happen, yeah? So you've got to be out there doing your thing. And the second thing, in my opinion and my experience, that you've got to be out there is doing your thing with integrity and with service. Aidan spoke about working from the soul, working from the heart, working from a different point of view. I did not give him my card and say, I'm in the coffee business, my business is dying, please buy coffee off me. Would you like sandwiches? Can we supply sandwiches to your office? I didn't try to sell him anything. I simply offered to be of help. And as a result of me challenging convention, because we all go to networking events and we're told to bring 100 cards and get out there, and how many of those have you actually done business with? Relatively few. So my take on this challenging convention is we need to, as you kicked off the evening, Aidan, we need to work from a different centre. And that centre, I believe, has got to be a centre of giving. And if we work from a centre of giving, the rest will take care of itself. That's not to be all Pollyanna about it, and it's not to ignore the details and all that type of stuff. It's not to live foolishly. But I absolutely believe, and it has been my experience, that if we go out there and we challenge convention and do things differently and do things to be of service, we've never done business with, as it happens, I met that guy again many years later, right? He's now a senior guy with Mary Immaculate College in Limerick, but I didn't meet him for 7 years. But that single moment and me handing him my business card, and it wouldn't have happened except I had that particular strapline on my business card, how can I help? The rest of it, the Cruises Coffee Company piece, meant nothing to him, if that makes sense. So I'm proposing that from this evening, and once again, Aidan, thank you very much indeed, and Lucy for entrusting me, your people with me, but or to my few words. I'm proposing that from tonight we go out and we simply go out to be of service and let the rest take care of itself. We absolutely, Laurence and I were talking about this, absolutely have to have a vision for our businesses, no question. And our business can grow to whatever heights we choose to have our business grow to, in my opinion. But let's go out there and be of service first. I've always believed that if you do the job right, the money will come. I've never, that I'm aware of, gone after the money first and hoping I'd do the job right. Do the job right first and eventually the money will come, is my experience. Okay, would you like a freebie? No? Would you like a freebie? Okay, freebie. I've written the book, Feeding Johnny, and it is the chronicle of the story I've just told you. It goes right back to my childhood and brings me right through. It brings the reader right through. It's a very easy read because I don't know any big words, right? So it takes the reader right through to. It was written in 2013, so it's quite current. And there's an audio version, which is yours truly, by the way, reading Feeding Johnny. So if you'd like a free version of the audio version of Feeding Johnny, please go to colmobrien.com/freebie. Keep it simple. Is that okay? /freebie, and if you put your name and email address in there, we'll deliver it to your inbox. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for this evening.